Gonzalo, the protagonist of this story, also did not believe in angels or anything to do with the things of God. He had become an atheist as a teenager when he encountered counter-communist readings in circles in his city. At that time, his country was experiencing the beginning of what would end up becoming a bloody process of violence and politics. Before we start, can we get this video to 1,000 likes? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And Gonzalo, like so many other young people of his generation, let himself be deceived by the siren songs of that supposedly revolutionary hurricane that was beginning to be unleashed. When he entered the public university of his country, this process of ideological decadence deepened. Gonzalo's atheism had until then been a personal issue that he hid from the people who had known him as a religious child. But at the university, he found a community of young people who were experiencing the same process and who filled in with a group spirit that made him even more rebellious and led him to openly declare to his family that he could not believe in God and that he was a political activist. His mother, a deeply believing woman, did not respond to her son's rebellion with violence because she wisely understood that fire does not spread with gasoline. She silently suffered the enigmatic ways that the Creator would choose to make her son return to the path of faith. For the time being, Gonzalo became more and more involved in those political circles and came to participate in direct confrontation with the police in demonstrations that destroyed the public resources of the citizenship in real acts of vandalism. And meanwhile, his mother, who knew that her son was involved in the riots, clung even more to prayer. One day, the political leader who was giving Gonzalo his orientation told him that he was really in a trial period, but that this period had already been successfully completed, and that consequently Gonzalo was now ready to take on even more important responsibilities with his organization. With these nice words, that man was disguising. What he was really trying to convey to Gonzalo would be used as cannon fodder to plant explosive devices in terrorist activities. By this time, Gonzalo had completely lost his individuality and had surrendered himself to an absurd idea for which he was willing to give his life. So he did not hesitate to accept. After receiving a brief clandestine training in the use and manufacture of explosives, Gonzalo was given increasingly important tasks. At the beginning, he only had to place leaflet bombs that, after a small and controlled explosion, left in the air hundreds of leaflets with political propaganda of his organization. But as time went by, Gonzalo was entrusted with more and more delicate actions until finally one day he was assigned, together with another colleague, to place a bomb in a police center in the city. Although he felt a little nervous, Gonzalo was already fully committed to what he considered a fair cause and accepted such a responsibility. But then his mother's prayers were finally answered. On the day scheduled for the terrorist attack, Gonzalo faced 1,001 obstacles that made it impossible for him to arrive on time. The car he had been assigned for transportation broke down, and when he was finally able to fix the mechanical problem, he was involved in a traffic jam that lasted for hours. By the time he was able to get out of it, he heard a loud explosion north of the city. He understood that his partner had gone on without him, and he also understood that he was wrong to do so because he did not place the bomb in the police station, but in a place where hundreds of civilians passed daily. It didn't take him long to realize that the place where the bomb exploded was very close to the area where his mother worked every day during housekeeping in family homes. Gonzalo felt that his world was collapsing and ran in his car to get to the place to check on his mother's health, but he did not make it. Halfway there, he was arrested by the authorities, who in record time identified his name as one of those responsible and took him into custody. In the dungeon, Gonzalo was subjected to a series of violent interrogations and all kinds of torture by police and military officers who, in the midst of the war taking place in his country, had abandoned any respect for human rights. Embraced by the truth, Gonzalo was adamant that he had not planted any bombs and refused to give out the names of his partners. That situation lasted for weeks, after which Gonzalo was locked up in complete isolation without any contact with any other human being. During those months, he was on the verge of going crazy because he was experiencing an overwhelming loneliness, added to the fact that he did not know if his mother was alive or dead. But not even then did Gonzalo abandon his atheism and embrace his faith in God again. He only did so that morning when he was unexpectedly, and without knowing why, released from prison and given the same car in which he had been captured driving it. The man hurried home to shake off the uncertainty he had been in for months. He didn't care that a torrential downpour was falling on the city, because the only thing that motivated him was to get home as soon as possible. However, when in the middle of the rain, he saw a helpless child crying in the middle of a street. While he was getting wet, Gonzalo stopped his car in his tracks. Although he was an atheist, the man had a deep social sense that had led him down the path of his militancy. He could not stand injustice, and despite the hurry he was in, it was impossible for him not to show solidarity with the boy, stop the car, and give him a little help. What happened then was utterly astonishing. The child accepted to be put in the car and was placed at the front of the car. Gonzalo kept running at a fast pace in his car, but then he heard the little boy say some words that changed his life forever. "Don't worry, your mother is fine." Gonzalo braked again. He didn't know how he could know the reason for his hurry, but when he turned around, the back seat was empty. A few minutes later, Gonzalo arrived home and indeed found his mother safe and sound. After long minutes of hugging and crying, the man dared to tell his mother what had happened. For her, there was no doubt that he was an angel sent by God to reintegrate Gonzalo to the path of faith. And boy, did he succeed. Since then, that man not only cleared all his ties with his former political comrades, but became a man of prayer, reading the Bible every day and attending church every Sunday.